Meadow of poet's gloom. This is also from Edith Hamilton's mythology. In thick smoke, Mother Earth could bear no more. All on fire, the flames of pity, so bold upon the tomb. The sun gods mourn the end of the story. All right. This is from Mr. Edgar Allan Poe, and this is from The Telltale Heart. And I wish I did some collages that go with them. And in this one, it's Edgar Allan Poe with his Beats by Dr. Dre on, which John loves to inform me every time I mention that Edgar Allan Poe could never have afforded Dr. Dre's Beats. So he would have had a much cheaper Walmart version of headphones. But anyway, from The Telltale Heart, and it goes like this. I grow a black shadow. I open the thread of spider bones in my bones. I watch sound, breathe. Louder, I say, I am the beat. This one's from Murders in the Rue Morgue by Edgar Allan Poe. The beast was torn from her head, severed from her throat, and dragged to a closed window for release. Move on from old Edgar Allan Poe. We'll see if we can find anybody else in here. It's pretty good. I did a lot of those. So I went kind of crazy on these for a whole summer. This is where the title to the collection comes from. This is from the autobiography of Mark Twain, which, by the way, it's super interesting. It's also like an incredibly depressing book. You know, people outside of Missouri or people who aren't like scholars of Twain have a vision of him as this sort of easygoing but sarcastic dude, who could get up and that guy was bitter, and a lot of bad stuff happened in his life, and he got more bitter and more bitter to the end where like his essays and things were so cynical that they're almost in a way unreadable, because you just are like, this is a guy that has given up on the human race. I mean, he really has. But anyway, this is an erasure from that. I still recommend reading it, but at the same time, it's just, it's interesting how far he went from somebody, Huckleberry Finn ultimately is a book of hope. It really is. There's escape in the book, and there's not a lot of that in the later Twain essays. I mean, they're just, he grabs you by the throat. From the autobiography of Mark Twain, he lay in a metallic burial case, thinking, I can still feel something. Another boat stretched upon a mattress of physics. Also from the autobiography of Mark Twain. Old as life, the widow was a tomb I made when I was a loose rat. Yes. Let's just stick with him since we're here in Missouri. So we'll work with Mark Twain some more. From the autobiography again. The door stood open as if it had been a Greek morning. What pleasure must cost both sexes in trouble? I wish you would give me some advice. If Mr. Reberg and I had gotten our stuff together, I'd be flipping through this and it would go much, much more quickly, but both of us have been lax on getting this book out, so.
One of us more than others.
I'm messing with you, Jason. This is from the old song Frankie and Johnny by Mississippi John Hurt. This was from John Hurt's first recording session, which he did back in the 30s. Later he was rediscovered during the folk revival and did a whole bunch more. If you don't know Mississippi John Hurt, You need to rectify that immediately because his voice is like it's something out of nature, that doesn't exist in a man-made way. It's just, he's one with his guitar and his voice. Frankie and Giant. Oh Lord, they was just a bucket of trouble. The tired graveyard, no moral, no end. Also from Mississippi John Hurt, this is one of his most famous songs, Farther Along, which is a favorite of mine. It can almost bring me to tears to hear that one. I oft wonder why the sunshine leaves, why the sunshine seems nothing, why the sunshine is all alone in the by and by. Nobody knows you when you're down and out. Jimmy Cox wrote this one, but of course Bessie Smith is the one who made it famous. Also covered by everybody in the universe. A recent one I like to walk a lot is Jason Isbell. Did a really nice job of it. So, bootleg liquor, my hands, your feet. It's mighty strange, without a doubt. It's mighty strange. When the levee breaks, Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Minnie, Led Zeppelin did that one, Bob Dylan did it, and Alison Krauss and Robert Plant just did it again, and they play it live a lot. So it goes like this. Look here, now look here, troubles. You work night and day, both night and day. Work for me, work for my cause to be. High Water Everywhere, Part 2 by Charlie Patton. Come down, the man said. Lord, 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 come down. Nobody home, no one to be found. Would be remiss if I didn't do Robert Johnson. So this is Hellhound on My Trail. Blues fall down like time around my door. Eve, oh Eve, the rising wind is all I need to keep my company. Death Letter Blues by Son House. I got a road I took to Judgment Day. I didn't know mercy would mistreat you and slowly walk away. One or two more of these.
Don't you shuffle too long.
Yeah, I know, you're gonna throw me out.
That's it.
This is from The Dead by James Joyce from his story collection, Dubliners. Weirdly, I don't think people would see Joyce as an influence on me. I'm a pretty plain-spoken poet, but there are other things about how Joyce grapples with Ireland. He's a guy who wrote as an expatriate, writing about Ireland from the outside and thinking about that. And when I was writing a lot of my poems about Illinois, for instance, that was kind of like that. You're coming to terms with the place you grew up, with the traditions. The Dead as a short story gets into the Festival of Epiphany and what family gatherings and things are like. And so even though stylistically it wouldn't be the same at all, very similar in how you think about the place you used to be after you leave there. So this is from The Dead. In the cold furnace, the man could hear joy from stars illuminated. He longed to be alone in his voice. Also from The Dead. Her name was a ballad I imagined that sprang to my lips like broken needles. All my senses seemed to slip from the palms of my hands. And then, if you've never done, so first of all, John Dorsey gets some credit for this. I had never really done, I'd done erasures as like a project with my students in class, but I'd never taken it like very seriously. And then John put out this book, Pocatello Wildflower, and some of you have probably read it. And I got that one, and I looked at it, and I got really excited about what he was doing with it, you know? And so that's, I mean, if anything, these erasures exist because I got excited from the work that John was doing, and it passed it on to me. And sometimes, you know, you can feel yourself carving them out, and you know, and so it's the kind of thing that you would look for yourself. So you feel like you exist as the writer along with this person. You're collaborating with them in some way because they're giving you the raw materials, and you're carving it out, and so that's your artistic contribution to the collaboration. But sometimes they just happen, and you just look at it and you go, well, I couldn't have written that, but I saw it there, and it just devastates you. This is one, you guys are probably like that, but it wasn't very good. But like this was one where I had to stop and make no more erasures that day, because I was like, this one just got me. This is from the dead also. Like a horse whipped amid a chorus of laughter, a woman standing near the top in the shadow of her shadow. Just knock it out. And one last one. This is from the short story Grace by James Joyce and Dubliners. It goes like this. Father, 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 Father. Grapes of Wrath, John Steinbeck. No peace till hell, no job, no potatoes. Go down to the water, go on now. Ain't much light, and you ain't clean. Also the Grapes of Wrath. The fear, endless, welded to men who had never been men. They reassured themselves they were good invaders. Right on, so that was kind of fun. I'm going to get out of the way and move on to the next person. I haven't really done those out loud, and so that was kind of fun, and it's good to measure whether they can go over with an audience. Thank you guys so much for having me. Available at some point in time. Who knows when, right? When they're finished.
Well, you're a brave man, because I have not really done those publicly, any of the ones that I've done. And full credit, full disclosure, I started doing it because late Mike James was doing it. And if anyone hasn't read Mike, they should. Mike's wonderful. And he helped so many people, but he helped me in that direction to move toward that. I'm just going to read a few things, not as much as I normally would, because I want to be able to call Abe up here. And Abraham Smith wins, in my mind, wins the MVP for this area because he lives in Ogden, Utah, and he's here with us today. All right, and every reading we've done, I've read a Scott Lonberg poem, and Scott was just about one of my closest friends on the planet for a number of years, and I'm going to continue that through tomorrow. But this is a poem of his called Wake Me Up When We Reach Nirvana. Tell the conductor not to forget to wake me. When we're almost pulling into the stop for Nirvana, I want to find my bag, fix up my face, go over my material, make sure I can give them my right profile. I hear the mice and the men will sit at the same bargaining table. There in the factory of death might close for the winter, as all their profits have sailed south. Heartfelt men and women will make a much anticipated comeback. The burial shall take a long vacation. I met a dog on the train that spoke 5 major languages fluently and fast. Sometimes I had trouble understanding his point of view. He'd spent too much time in a doghouse that had faulty ventilation. We discussed rainbows, cluster bombing, expediency, and the Oregon Ducks. A lucid angel thumbing its way toward the sun seeks a rambunctious relationship with anyone on the run. Tell the smell of fresh baked bread to stick around. The Ferris wheel halts just when you figured out who really shot JR. Arguments brewed over early breakfast. They need much more hot, strong black coffee. Soon they'll tire from getting in each other's faces. The waitress has 15 children. She doesn't remember who came first, but the one who arrived last just might be the next big thing. I stare through my window. Some of this landscape seems like an old friend. Some of it snarls, bares its fangs. Guess it really doesn't matter which end of the hot potato you dumbly pick up. Tell the conductor I need more training. I'm not quite ready to serve. The eloquent dog offers me a paw in empathy. You seem collapsible, he says, but hot air balloons look picturesque sometimes if you can account for them through renegade clowns. Maybe he's right. I yearn for a giant tub of butterless popcorn. It's the only reason sometimes I venture out of my hovel to the movies. Moses, come and part my not so very well-read hair. A hot time will be had in the not so old but rapidly getting there town tonight. I love Scott. I will love him always. S.A. Griffin and I put together this book with Jason posthumously after Scott had passed. We're doing another book next year that will include some of this material as well.
Uncollected from like the big volume I have?
Other stuff that nobody has seen.
Yes,
There's a lot of stuff that nobody has seen.
Awesome.
Throughout this week, Abe and I have brought up Sabico, Arkansas, which was the hometown of Frank Stanford. And I've actually visited there. Frank Stanford's buried on the property where he went to high school. And it's an interesting place. But I wrote this poem called What Passes for Zen in Sabico, Arkansas. A frail dog floats out of a wooden box as if by magic, shaking as sunlight touches its skin. In 1898, there was a natural spring just over the hill. Now they make craft beer for tourists and relatives carrying plastic fire trucks on the wet grass. An ex-monk has come here to forget the past and tell you about it at least a dozen times. Where high school boys throw baseballs over tombstones, imagining gentle girls with strawberry blonde hair, knock-kneed from meditation, leaving a weightless kiss in an empty field that is as close to heaven as they may ever get. Where Frank Stanford rolls over in his grave like a dancing bear from another century. Actually, let's get end with that. I'm going to read like 3 more poems. Occasionally, Victor and I will make a little book for ourselves, and we made this one because I wanted to do it. It's called The Double Wide Book of the Dead. I grew up in trailer parks, so that's where it's taken from, but this is the title poem from there. The Double Wide Book of the Dead. Our house wasn't nearly that big, with its cheap plaster walls, where I covered my bedroom with posters of long-forgotten 80s hair bands, and built a temple to suburban poverty, with awful ghost stories scribbled into yellow legal pads, with awful poems about pale girls scribbled into yellow legal pads. It was all dull ink and Saturday morning cartoons and reduced lunch tickets with peanut butter sandwiches and tomato soup every day. and dreams hidden away in pencil boxes, and coins tossed into shopping mall fountains, and girls with hips as wide as jelly bracelets. You could only corral so many spirits into such a tight space until the dead started to look like you, like your mom or your dad when they were your age, when they looked for answers in sad songs too, in broken houses where the dead had more room to roam and stretch their legs and dance. This is a poem that was about the worst wedding I've ever attended in my life. And it's 1 and 2 where I was the best man at the wedding. And it was the only one I've been to where they went to the bar before the wedding ceremony, before the reception. There's a bar in South Toledo called Ermey's Lounge. It's about being there. If you're ever in South Toledo, do not go to Ermey's Lounge. It is a terrible, terrible place. Dante talked about that circle of hell. It's called A Summer Wedding at Ermey's Lounge. Before we ever got to the church, the entire wedding party pulled the limos up in front of the bar because somebody's great aunt's third cousin had left an open tab. And the sun seemed to pour in from outside and reflect off 1,000 different NASCAR posters that lined the walls, even as it rained outside. I went into the bathroom and did lines off the toilet seat just to prove I was still cliche enough to be there. But being the wisest man in a hillbilly soap opera is hardly a moral victory. Piss drunk before noon and not quite high enough to love ourselves, we should have stayed there. Where a stripper with gap teeth played pool and sang, "Let's get drunk and screw," as her lungs filled with hope in the shape of a coffin. And it was the most honest thing I'd ever heard. And God was in full view. And we exchanged vows with a shot glass set on fire, as holy as any church, and as beautiful as any summer flower in search of light. That part about the shot glass is true. I'm not sure if any of you have ever had a flaming Dr. Pepper, where you drop a shot in the glass that's been set on fire. It's actually illegal in the state of Ohio, but we're doing it anyway.
Really good.
I'm sure nothing's illegal here in Bell. It's the Wild West here. All right, I'm going to read 2 poems. I was going to read one more, but I'm going to read 2 because I feel like this poem is important. When I was much younger, I had a friend who was a phone sex operator. I don't even know if they exist now. Somewhere, a bunch of women with beautiful voices are on the unemployment line. This is, my friend used to put her calls on speakerphone, and I could listen to them while we cooked or made food or whatever. But this story is horrific. People tend to laugh at first, and then they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't laugh at that." It's called Marissa Was an Unsung Hero. Marissa was an unsung hero, making mango chicken in the kitchen, where we had her calls on speakerphone, as one of her regulars described what he wanted to do to her instead of doing it to his 5-year-old daughter. Sitting on the edge of the bed while she slept, uncertain of what to do in the silence, while he got up for a glass of water, pacing the room with its flower-patterned walls, tripping over the torso of a nude plastic doll. Nobody ever said phone sex saves lives. Maybe they should have. Or maybe it just postpones the future, like paint peeling off the walls of a dollhouse engulfed in flames. that's a true story. Jason and I had this long back and forth thing about capital punishment, which is liberal as I am on a lot of things I believe in for like child molesters and whatnot. There's a special place in hell for, well, people that harm puppies as well. You don't do it. All right, I'm going to finish up with this. And I'll say, I'm going to put some books out there. I know these guys have some. If given a choice, don't buy my book. Buy some for Abe because he's here from Utah. And he's a wonderful, wonderful person who I enjoyed spending some time with. But this poem, too, is a true story. And it's horrific in its own way. But this is called For Paul Who Worships Satan and Dungeons and Dragons. And the title's taken from in the early 80s. If you were a kid that was into Dungeons and Dragons, you were a Satan worshiper. Now, you're almost, I won't go as far as to say you're popular, but within your own set of people. But, all right. For Paul who worships Satan and Dungeons and Dragons. I never saw you dismember any animals, or play a record backward to send our young souls to a dimension filled with fire. As far as I know, you didn't even have a vinyl collection. All I remember is you being kind to the younger kids, walking them up from the bus stop to make sure they got home all right. But it was a crime to be quiet in 1984. Maybe if you'd spent less time smoking in the woods behind the trailer park. Maybe you should have combed your hair or not worn a faded Black Sabbath t-shirt on the bus without regret as you stared out the window. Maybe you should have gone to church or listened when the news talked about how a fantasy game took lives. As if war in suburbia didn't suck the air out of the room all by themselves. The least you could have done is finish high school and hang yourself from a tree in a different neighborhood. Now I'm going to welcome up Abraham Smith, who is, I'm hoping, is going to play some music for us as well as read some poems. It's going to be awesome. All right, well, I've run out of things to say after 4 nights of doing this. It's rare when we're lost for words. But Abe, welcome, man. Welcome up.
Thank you, my friend. What a treat. What a treat. That was the treat. We're going to do some more stuff here. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. What a treat. All I can say is treat. Yeah, Frank Stanford, if you haven't read him, you're going to love that guy. I was corresponding with a dear friend who passed away. I was telling these guys he fell in a volcano. That's the way to go. His name is Craig Arnold, beautiful poet. And he wrote me, we were writing letters back and forth in the early 2000s. And he wrote me one, he said, I'd sent him a long poem I was working on. He said, please go read Frank Stanford now. Please don't do what he did. Because Frank Stanford shot himself in the heart. Anyway, so I misremembered and I went and got the wrong book, and it took me a while to find him. But once I found him, Frank Stanford became for me like an aegis, like a turtle shell, in workshop situations where other students and professors as well were utterly baffled by my poetry, which is rural. It comes out of the loam of northwestern Wisconsin. That's where I'm from, with a little bit of puree of, Texas, East Texas, where a lot of my family's from. So it's just kind of like the sound is making the sense most of the time, although there'll be little splashes of story. And so in a workshop setting that wanted, I think, a manifest destiny, an A to a Z, or a big old bass drum, beautiful simile at the end every time, it just wasn't there, and so people wanted for me to rectify that chiropractically somehow. But so to have read Stanford, I was like, oh shit, we're in the same caterwaul, and I just didn't know it. So I felt like a little kitten hiding in the arm ball of him, And I always wish that he would have, I'm going to make sure I don't go on. Let's see, I'll go to 7:15. So, anyway, Stanford was so important. But Stanford was in an infamous love triangle with one of the greatest poets in the history of time, C.D. Wright, and one of the greatest poets in the history of time himself, and the greatest poets of the history of time, Lucinda Williams. I bring this up because we're going to do a little improvised poem at the end of this, and I'm in a band called the Snarlin' Yarns. We're going to put our third record here pretty darn soon. We just recorded it in Mississippi 2 weeks ago, and I improvise poems inside of those. Way back in the 1990s, this is way, but some of you guys were like, 44 years from being born in the 1990s. But anyway, way back in the 1990s, I lived in Austin, and I improvised poems in little coffee shops and things. And I got to know Townes Van Zant's first wife, who came out to hang out. And by dint of that, all things kind of swarmed around, and I was asked to improvise poems at Lucinda Williams' birthday party. And I got up there, and I was like, I looked out at Lucinda Williams, and it all went away. I didn't have anything to say. So I said, "Oh, gray stone." And I said that like 14 times. And then I died. And actually, I'm not even here right now because I died that night. But anyway, that was okay.
You have a very attractive ghost, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a brand new manuscript. It's been such a joy to hang out with these dudes. We corresponded a little bit. It was.
We really hadn't, but I've been waiting to see you in person.
Yeah. So here we are, and we've become fast family, and we'll be hanging out, all four of us down the line. So here's a little chunk from a new manuscript. Frogs. You like frogs, right? Yeah. And barn swallows and sound. Shout some other stuff. Yes, a song is a song for as long as a lagniappe and forever bellows conjugate fire, eyes clear, covered over in a trillion little shroud songs. Little shroud cape sails, eye clear, covered over in a billion shook drink, wing sprays, your ears go off with mine, corks from champagne, become the little snowy faces of milkweeds in a different season. We reach and shake and reach, make more. Takes a long board to make a teeter-totter, stretch them arms out wide, pretty spackle of sparrows to sit the other side. One sweet brief life through the tear in the screen, milk haze, light awaits, is already where your young shouts go, to spin and to turn like unboiled eggs across the counter. Nothing to river is this rain, until alchemical wings serve glad nice ash lives again. It flies through neck to breach the breast of the barn swallow, whose locket heart, roof-thumped wind, dog-eye scare. Easy now, gentle now, sit down, stay, roll. Are we all this on fire? Are we good for the garden? Are we good? Are we down for picking up strange road breaths? Someone couldn't help it going, given or shook out or dropped. Good, your back can lean. Glean the breaths, mask your mouth, limber some with some. Gonna jump your eyes like bike tires pumping them, just enough good to wheelie by the cousins, some with some. On your tool to the river and the river bank, smash flat, long winter, line up the kids, thrown, known, and new now. Who here has the worst home life hair? See the long despair, these short dead bullhead fish boats we try and blow on, to share in the quietest heart. Rivers, sturgeons, chews on the tooth of a mastodon, where life walks, where flies walk, this sticky ticking clock, too close to the stove before they, swallow heart, swallow throat, throat of the swallow, roll the bolt with the shore, Sador. Those unafraid of things ending carry a chickadee beak of dirt under nails. Come clean, after life see, living is letting your apple heart lessen by dirty mouths, dear and bare. Sympathy over rice, somebody sweet's arm drops 3 leaves for chill napkin. Thanks, thank you, not brow sky, lappin' spring, clover mouth, all this old way. Stir a head case on circles, wobbles everything, aperture closing, none due for shine time cleaning, toddle, peeper, silver ring. Come close, yes, run walking, communion line, every age I've ever been, given next up in most every key cut neck rubbing. I am no sky, I am no city's rippling vein. I guess I am the motel, half the word, lights, light, ghost, easel name, they and them, and they, by the weekend. I guess I am the wrecked high chair out front, or was that a pitiful plastic kid slide? I guess I am the dog on some yellow nylon rope. I guess I am chewing free and loping glad. Guess I have a golden mouth to share out red wind with. Good little fires, high as the hares, belly of the deer, accordion for fawn, every song needs some. Moss's little green hairs, children given to despair find joy in tornadoes. And it goes on and on from there. Okay, hey, I appreciate it a whole lot. Let's get it sadder yet. This is a performer I knew in up north there, northern Wisconsin, who had a pet crow, and it didn't go well. This is a chunk from this pookie. It's Scratch and Sniff if you like radishes, you know. Let's see. For she had been one of two men, some the north of town, known to men to have tamed a crow. I tell you, that crow followed him to church, sat on a post, and out they'd come, and there that crow would be, waiting on the fence or on the hood of the car. That crow Cole Sheepball got caught in, and his. Half and then maybe 3/4 of the congregation twisting their necks in the jailbreak, talking, hustling for the car before one loudmouth or another crank caught 'em in. Did you hear how? Or how are they? And what's that? And twisting the necks of their hearts. The people swelled a little with envy at that crow, his crow. It was the closest thing to having a really nice car. 2 little oil drips for eyes and a beak so big. Dream had gavel, laugher huge, with the lizard's strange moving. In frickin' short, a naked snake killed with the Bible slap crow. Was nicer than anyone. Was 100-pound and no rainbow in that crow. Was a good thing. Out past judgment, crow had his back. What's that? Bars of timber pontooning in your eye. It was right, nice to feel that little fleck, that little crotch of good night always. Out past judgment, bobble and bubbling, in vision's edges always that crow. To sit on a shed rafter while he cussed a machine. To get at those belts, you gotta have your good wind, your cuss best, and the patience of some sturdy char in witness. But that fool crow started in on dandy, with star glide away mid-fix to go on and run his bright head puddle-wise. Then dripping, drift back in, that crow would, above and carrying on, about how lazy the rain. Work drop, wait till, ground give a mouth party, until Ray Lee lays, until the whole shit and tin shed had an echo about, have you ever lit a lawnmower on fire, tried to pull the cord fire? Honestly, maybe not even close to the pest pecker echoings of that crow. And his, truly, lay a socket down, lay a sweet little necessary wrench, the last straw upon the last crow. Turn his back to reach for what have you, and his crow, in a shudder of startling fastness, sudden rush, as the night is raining jellyfish, as the jellyfish are plastic trash bags, as the bags are plastic, but with the falling power of iron and lead. Mouthy, cocky gut, wildly falling, like that, like death, down came food. something shines. But I'll tell you, if there's a better image for the witness, the searcher, the faithful, it just might be that crow. 11/16 wrench out its front, side shine, freckle, first star, twilight, and swallowed down the woods, soft sonnet catch pie. Talking everything broken, fold up dirty, for a stuck little broke-ass tie. And it was them, he knew a life without options. Simple, frank, rock bottom, balding the bottom line. So dressed himself head to toe in a blackness, borrowed a few things from his wife, but that's another story, and slid like riding ice into his car, such that he fooled his crow, who was an easy fooling, bright eyes dark upon him, fooled the crow that it was a funeral when everyone busts their inner crow out, ha ha. But the sorriest part to report is, as his .22 rifle reported through, ka-ka, the dutiful guts and gutsy brain of that crow, his. Well, what can I tell you would be right? He had a heavy brand of sorry heavy all his life. On a shovel flipped he his crow into the woods where Lord knows his drop for losing air-mailed wrenches creaked a stellar blow. Like a mule ear peaked, locked bolt right, light against work. Everything out there against that crow, you know. Wary for the taint of 8 fingers. It would be that way forever. 4-3, and then a 3-4, and then a 4-3, and then a 3-4. The ass was a long one before the last black feather fell out of a straight line to go on and seek the sleep meats of a circular dust. And rolling heavy back and forward in deep wind did that crowless crow. Oh, you could see the lefts of a wing lift little in storms. You could see that with your dinged ear even, as though some sweet black loam to swim tried just a fin, not so fine, and the rolling did the see-soo dark. So there's some crowing for you. Yeah. Thank you, friends. Boy, this is a treat. All right, let me give you one. Let's stay with jerks. Yeah. I mean, this is one I wrote a long time ago for a guy from our county who, John and I share a passionate hatred for people who hurt animals. So, and Mr. Ollie Fink, great name, Ollie Fink. Ollie Fink got his just dessert, as you're about to hear. I just was reading Old Chronicles of Rusk County, where I come from. 1800s, North Wisconsin, leave it to me to work Ollie Fink into the leaven. He was an ass. Had eyes like blood-fat wood ticks, rustled from the worst dog, old snuff smeared for a beard, and a stench like trash. Very famous for killing wolves. Killed them clean from 2 counties, both Rusk and Taylor. A lot of feed sack tied off puppy howling. That's saying something. He poisoned them. He kept the powder at home. He was a bachelor, so there was nothing stopping him. He shook bare flesh full of poison, and he laid in the bushes during the interminable coughing, and he dragged them warm back home at dark, with the northern lights never cracked on high. And it was there he tied 8-10 beautiful wolves in the glory of middle life, by their necks by the light of the moon. Little pistol shit of a cuss of a man, leaning on his shit shack next to 10 beautiful songwriters, all by the throats. Promise you, if I had been the moon, snapping milk bleach pictures, I would have said, "Oh, old pal, I'd like to take in a second one of you," with my rifle and lowering into one crater or other and cocking it, touched the trigger to gravity bang, made his bangs gravy. I would have leveled him. Bang! F the stories of old world wolves stealing babies. That's Bull and Ollie was too. The old creek low and testy, the new dawn cool, sky worn and wormy, awfully stinky lumbermen, fat wrists swinging, Norwegian ditties winging, fat wrists, lard asses leveling the white pines out of there. He clouded hearing them sawyers singing, not so soothing for the grated on the ache he already had. He felt pain. This is Ollie. Follow me here. Ollie in piebald breeches, piebald with bare greases, suspenders built of wolf tongues, stripped, stamped, knocked the fool howl out of them. Getting harder to keep his oily self up, he slept in suspenders, which wore wolf plums. He tried to rest, strapped into calcified moon rungs. His tooth hurt good, so reached for pain-kill powder, took instead, Ollie gasped, took the wolf poison into his hands. A pair of rough and ready hands in the wolf urine light of half dawn, with Norwegian lard asses already singing. His two bulky, never-praised snakehead hands that shined a little like something fresh varnished or yanked from water or pried from birthing matter. Old Ollie drank the shit down with the draw of rusty creek water in the half-life of dawn, with lumberjacks singing, now plaintive, now joyful birds. Riding one, sung like a drunk on a stump with nothing but unkindness left to churn. Old All performed a little work. Yes, he did. I think he pulled a weed out from the ground. He, Ollie Fink, solo lobo killer, took it in his head to lay down. Tried to, then fell by his plank board bed. They found him cold and down. Old tough-ass Fink. Some there were who claimed it was his buttons. They were always poison spiders. Somewhere a lone baby wolf applauds gangbusters, performs a lewd jig in the dust Ollie used to spit. Only things asked us that we don't mind the descent and lengthen the harness some. All right. About another 6 minutes. I'm going to do one little turtle dove of this, and then we shall do our performance. In just a second. Yep, we'll send him to the loo to prepare his bladder for the claim. Right? Let's see, where else we could go. This is a poem collection about sandhill cranes, if you like big birds. We all like big birds, but not everybody likes big birds. So I go to Nebraska every March to be with the cranes as they come through. It's the largest single species gathering on Earth of anything besides humans. And so there they gather, to the tune of 500,000, 600,000, 700,000, 500,000, easy there at one time. And I have one about the origins of my love for sandhill cranes, which was staying with my grandparents down in central Wisconsin. All that sandy soil and all those. My grandpa only liked to eat sweets. I guess that's why he didn't have teeth. So it was just nothing but muskmelons, and my grandma tried to convince him to eat something other than kolaches and melons, but that guy's got his taste, right? So I'm going to read you just a chunk of this. It's called Westfield, because that's the name of the town. And when we see this gentleman come riding back out of the loo, then we'll get him up here. That's already a chunk of it, because this is long and I would die of thirst partway through. But it's for my gramps. Well, I look exactly alike, and so he died at 95, and my grandma carried on for many years later. She died at just shy of 102, and she was somewhat younger than him anyway, so she would often be startled when I would come around the corner. My grandma was the most negative person I've ever met, but my best friend as well. If you had the window, she'd be like, "I hate the light." And then you'd be like, "Well, you want the window open?" "I hate the wind." So, okay. Well, my favorite thing is I would stay with her all the time. I was sweeping her floor one time, and she was just scowling at me. I was like, "Hey, Grams, I'm just sweeping the floor." And she said, "Oh, why don't you just step on it?" It's like, okay, so I can step on it too. Anyway, I will step on a few pages of this for my dear grandpa and grandma, who are ultimate turtle shell. Will always be the ultimate, protectors in my life. I'll read the first couple pages and the last page or so. This is when my grandpa's Alzheimer's had kicked in a little bit. So I'll give you the first two and the last 1.5, and then we'll get Mr. Justin up for one little warble, a little improv. I promise not to say Greystone 14 times. Westfield, Wisconsin. Here we go again, Grandpa, Harold, William, Detra, one face over the other. Try calling different rain in the river, and the rain behind you. I flew, on your maple tapping missions, in slush not quite sinking, in dog bite cold melt snow. In the old 1926 yearbook from Iron Mountain, Michigan, smells like a wedding of mosses still, and I am in you. In there, I the tap, and you the sap, I the fire, you the all-night vigil, I the syrup, you the basement steps, I the creaking rising with a fresh jar to take home, Grandma crying out, why look who is here, us running in from the dark brown Chevy Chevette, barely off, it was not beige or cocky, it was like beige or khaki got to bleeding to death, deep, deep dark brown. Yes, and with the drinking, and with the not quite laughing, and with the laughing like starting a shit Buick in the cold. All my life, that question about what the lightning snake of too bright light through your green seedlings did do, knocked you from your golf shoes in Illinois where you was teaching code during the war. Daughter, Betty Ann up north of there, getting born. Dial forward 30 years and she changes her name to Joy. Dial back 30 and you wake up in the hospital. Pants still smoking. Zipper walks straight to cloth. And we'll get to the end and see what happens to Gramps at the end of this. He went out in the field just to lay down and watch the moon. My grandma called the cops and they came and hauled him in. I was just watching moon give piece by piece its best west blessed water. It's capable, I'm of holding it, if briefly, of eating into it, of an actual water eaten by one moon shed by one star luffing, quench, I see, spy again my origin in among an old edible light, whose taste, no taste, a distancing, whose fight or flight lifer, whose rise parachutes lifting, whose water gauzy meld light, sandwich life to the points of words and their slow back roundings to a darkling vice. I sing to cast in bronze and gold and silver and iron and pig lead and lion granite and bash and bash it and bash and bash it until stars, islands underfoot, and I step through myself, Isthmus Hamm, born to be bridging, the itching lonesome, them bastards had heavy guns and flammable costumes, swish when they walked, as if stethoscope I had, and then miraged it cross, strike a match, what's your hurry, ticking snow sky, old snow lagoon, through whose bottom turtles line it, button it, dream, as seeds dream, first little smoke of green, and turning to rise, fire, and rising again fly, flakes for foolish stepping stones, for golf balls smash salt small, for I so hit the sweet spot, why I felt it, felt what? Nothing at all. Well, let's do a little perfect time. That was just 21 minutes of your time, and now we're going to play the
You're clean as a whistle now, Justin?
What's that?
You're clean as a whistle now?
I am. I'm good to go.
All right.
So,
I'm glad it was.
One of two things will happen here. I'll grab this guy and I'll open my mouth to sing, and I'll either sing this song for you, or the sound of corn husks blowing in the wind will come out, and then I'll look at Abe and he'll
Take it from
there.
You got it.
From it. So
You got
let's
it.
try it out here. down to St. James Infirmary. Saw my baby there. She was laid out on a long white table. So sweet, so pure, so fair. God bless her, God bless her always. Wherever that she may be, you can look this wide world over, never find a sweet man like me. Oh, I'm just bragging.
I was borderline. I was getting a little cold in my skin. I was thinking about priors and ligaments and how she was the sun, I was the moon. You know, I had no shot of my own. I could rub maple syrup back in the size of my gums. I could take that away back to the rats sometimes dance. I could pray, I could pray, I could pray. But when I saw her on a banana skin, I saw her on the pale white, I saw her stiff as bone. I started to run through all those names that I know for stone. Sandstone, chirp, obsidian, something, something. Next thing you know, I'm back out on the street, pulling my shoelaces free. When a man gets this worn down, he don't need dental floss. He can use his shoelaces to saw himself in three. I put one piece of myself right next to her dead body. I took another piece down to the river. And the third piece I left is a desiccated little blood mark for that lonesome soul that needed some Quixote. Quixote.
God is in His heaven. We all want what's His. Power in blue, incorruptible seed. It seems to be all that there is. I'm gazing down the window of the St. James Hotel, and I know one thing nobody can see. The human blues, the blind Willie McTell, the blind Willie McTell, the blind Willie McTell. I know nobody can sing them blues, the blind Willie McTell. Yeah, right on.
Thanks, team. Thanks for hanging out with us. That was a real treat.
So was that?
Oh, thanks.
It's over here. You know, I have a lot of people at various points ask me who the people are that I admire and I really respect, and Abraham Smith is one of those people. I've only recently gotten to know him, but I've been reading him for the last decade. And as you reach middle age, your attention span to just keep reading someone, it's harder than it used to be. But you're wonderful, sir. Thank you.
Seconded. Absolutely, man.
And I'm going to put this sheet up for anyone who wants to sign up on the open mic. Go ahead and do that. We're going to take 10 or so minutes with these guys over by that table so that you can do a little commerce. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, before we go over there and do that, I want to thank Mark and Tony for letting us use this space. As always, I love it in here. And like I said, come back July 6 o'clock, we welcome you. Thank you so much.